Next on our agenda is past International Director Lewis Quinn from Anchorage, Alaska, United States. Past International Director Lewis has been a Lion since 1986, and his passion is working to help ensure a more substantive and sustainable Lions presence around the world. After serving on the Lions Club's International Board of Directors from 2015 through 2017, Lewis now serves on the second evolution of the LCI Forward effort and is part of the branding and visibility team. He also helps with targeting specific corporate and specialty Lions clubs. To help us start thinking a little bit differently about the future of Lions, I'd like to welcome past International Director Lewis Quinn.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. You know, it wouldn't be a Lions event if I didn't start off with some sort of humor to kind of get us going. But, you know, being from Alaska, you know, one of the things about history for Alaska is we're really proud of is that we actually were in a competition with Hawaii to be the 49th state. And it took a lot of time and effort and energy from Alaskans to make that happen. And I just wanted to say I'm really glad that we were the winner of that competition and became the 49th state, because wouldn't it be odd if you got a chance to watch a show called Hawaii 4-9? Anyways, just a little Alaskan humor. So welcome to the first ever Lions Virtual Symposium, and it's about the future of Lions. You know how Lions began, we all know the story from Melvin Jones about you can't get very far until you start doing something for somebody else. That's true today, but I'll start off by challenging you to kind of think outside the box, have an open mind. So here we go. With that quote in mind, there's some more current thoughts out there today that are kind of floating around there, and you might be familiar with them. That number one is our society has an obligation to invest now to improve the lives of those coming into this world, not just those that are already here. And you might recognize who said that. And I'll just point out Mark Zuckerberg said that. Another relevant thought is that every life is valuable, that we can make things better, that innovation is the key to a bright future, and that we're just now getting started. And the person who said that, of course, is Bill Gates. Consider this as we move forward. Kind of look at this, like Jordan said, from a 30,000-foot viewpoint. You know, what do you see in the world today? Do you see uncertainty, chaos, paranoia, perhaps more, especially with the situation we're in right now with the virus? Do you see that it's all about me? I certainly see that pretty much in my travels that I travel around the US and even outside the US. Is that what you want to see? I don't think so. Can we evolve from what's in it for me to what's in it for everyone? Can we do something about it? Do we have the courage to do something about it? And the big question, I think, for today and the group here today is, how do Lions fit into the equation and lead the way on this challenge? What can we do? It's really up to you. It's up to all generations to make this happen. But in order to really do this, I think we must think boldly. We must think outside the box, and we must give credibility to people that have bold ideas. And it needs to be enough to raise the bar as far as we're concerned in volunteering, because only Lions, as 1.4, almost 1.5 million members around the world can do, we have a really big stake in this effort. When I say, what does it mean to think boldly? Well, think about this for just a second. You know, if you were going out on your first date and you thought about how you were going to get to your first date, and you were, say, in the early before Christ, 1965 BC, you might ride a horse to pick up your date or go to their house. In 1765 AD, you might take a buggy to get to that first date. And in 1965, you might have been one on the block that had a Volkswagen Bug to get there. And what would you do in 2015 per se? What would you do? Would you call Uber? That's a bold thing for somebody to come up with an idea like Uber. You know, Uber is the largest owner of transportation in the world, and they own no vehicles. It's very odd in this society that that would happen, but it's welcome in our society that that'll happen. And boldly in Lions, think about Helen Keller when she was bold back in 1925 when she asked Lions to be the Knights of the Blind. Think that was pretty darn bold in her day. What can we do as Lions to shape the world? It's a really good question. You know, and there's a whole bunch of people coming up. Sometimes as Lions, we talk a lot about millennials and the younger generation, but really there's a lot more than millennials. There's the Gen Zers, the X generation, the I generation, arguably, and then of course the millennials. And so there's a whole lot of people. It's not just targeted at one group or another. It's everybody combined. So in order to do this, we'll need to embrace diversity, which is exactly what our President Choi is about right now, is diversity in our Lions clubs. We need to celebrate inclusion because inclusion is one of our strengths. We're one of the very few organizations on the planet that have an inclusion policy of anybody's welcome. We need to engage in nurturing, engage our young folks and how they can come up and be confident to be part of our society moving forward. We need to spread kindness as we're already doing with all the special things we do. Where there's a need, there's a lion. And then a big thing for me is we've got to share it with everybody. And, you know, we have to toot our own horn, and we definitely don't do that enough. And it's one of the reasons I'm glad to be on the committee about our visibility and branding down the road. So it's something that we need to share with everybody. So how do we start? How do you start? You know, it's really easier than you think because we've already started in a lot of ways. Let's look at the Lions Quest program, for example. You know, it's considered in the United States anyways, and actually around the world, as I've sat in on some of the advisory panel discussions, you know, it's a model program for SEL in our schools. And for some of you that aren't familiar with that term, it's social and emotional learning. And some of the schools have really embraced that as a way to move forward with the younger generations today. And it's actually considered one of the best programs available out there. It's very credible, and the independent reviewers out there like the Novo Foundation and the Castle Group, who evaluates these programs, ranks it very, very high on the list of programs to consider. But what about reshaping Lions Quest? You know, we as Lions and volunteers in our communities have the ability to participate in these things and make things happen really fast. Can it be a bold move for us to try to do something different there? Can it be a launch pad to say, for example, reverse and provide a cure for type 2 diabetes? That's a pretty bold idea. Or what if we added some other key elements into this program? I'm just going to throw a few of them up here. And then if we did, what would the evaluators say then? Here's some that my wife and I have been lucky enough to be able to participate in some discussions at some local middle schools that are participating in this program. And one of the things that keeps coming up over and over is relevant life skills. Skills that the kids want to learn now so they don't have to learn after they get out of school on their own. Things like how to balance a checkbook, or what does it mean to invest and take charge of your future that way. And I think one of the things that's really come out the most, in addition to the relevant skills, is adaptability, because we're on a mission to create certain things for these kids as they come out of school. But what happens when things change? Give them the adaptability skills to be able to change these things on the spot and know that it's okay to make these changes. And it's wise to make them as early as you can. We had a lot of questions about vaping and opioids in the classes that we attended. And we haven't approached that yet. And it'd be great if we did. Digital awareness. When I say digital awareness, what I'm talking about is we went to a debate in Massachusetts with one of the Lions clubs, and the topic was whether the digital age is good or bad for society and for kids in general and our future. And there was both sides of the debate, and both of them had merit. But I think just understanding the difference would put a good timeline and safety net for people if they understood both sides of that coin. Diet and exercise platform to curtail diabetes and help with the prevention of vision loss. I mean, that's something that we can do right now. And if we were perhaps to team up with Play 60 with the NFL, who's already doing this kind of thing in the schools, maybe we bring that into our program, and now we have the ability to make a difference on the diabetes platform that Lions has embraced. Now, I ask you, if you were in charge, what would you do? What are your thoughts? Would your list include things like the environment, humanity, kindness? What about in your own town, your own community, or maybe your own school? Could it involve kids, homelessness, sight? There's all kinds of things that we have a great opportunity to be able to make a difference. And I guess Lions right now, the challenge is on to you. Will you be on top of your game? I love this slide because I found it in Hawaii when we were there, and I used to use it for my sales team when I was in business. And I always challenge them to be on top of their game, think ahead of the game, and try to outsmart your competition. And I just thought this was an appropriate slide to kind of include. Are we on top of our game? And Michaela, for some of you that haven't seen this, Michaela Shirley was in her essay speech, this year's winner, and she was presented this speech at the Lions Day at the UN. So I'll play that for you.
I think the message of kindness is really important because it's going to help everyone. And kindness is contagious. So if one person is nice to another person, that person will help out another person, and so on and so forth, sort of like a chain reaction. Kindness is a simple but powerful thing. It can be as small as a smile or a wave. Even if you don't realize that you're doing it, it can still make someone else's day. Kindness matters more than you think. I have been legally blind since the age of 2. I had a rare cancer called bilateral retinoblastoma, which is a cancer that affects both of the eyes. It was this tragedy that taught me the lifeline of kindness. How to be thankful for what I have instead of wanting more. I'm so thankful to all the people that held our hands through it all, so that this family could stay on our feet. It's because of that experience, I'm on a mission to change the world with kindness, by helping others through their dark times like they helped me through my cancer. Sometimes life can be tough, and you might feel like the whole world is against you. Believe me, as a stubborn, legally blind girl, it has happened more than once. If you just keep being kind to one another, it can make yours and everyone's world brighter. Kindness really, truly matters. Michaela Ansley. I give many thanks to the International Lions Club for helping young legally blind or blind people like me have an opportunity to have a voice and to do something amazing.
Now, if you don't think that we have a great future in our society, that should be an indicator to you right off the bat that things are looking really good. But in reality, it's really your turn right now to create your own legacy. Lions has been around 100 years, a little more than 100 years. And Lions from around the world have had their opportunity to create their legacy. And now it's time for you to create your legacy. What do you see? What do you see in the future? All I ask is that you impress the planet, and I'm sure you will. So I really appreciate you listening to this part of my presentation. I'm going to move on into something a little bit different now, and now kind of piggybacking on Ashley's kindness matters thought, here's another idea to ponder. How about something like an epic approach to fundraising and awareness? Here, let's set the stage. And I've said this before, I'll say it again because it happens, we hear it a lot, and it's really true, is that you can't get very far until you start doing something for somebody else. And some of these headlines you may recognize. There's lots of things in the headlines today that, is not necessarily so great news. And we have a hard time with our media today having good stories come out. There's an effort for some of it now, but pretty much everything you see is not necessarily good news, and it's not too kind. Our world could use a little more kindness. And I think we're doing a really, really good job with our Kindness Matters campaign right now. And you see it everywhere. There's a real movement around our world right now to talk about kindness, little acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. It's a really great start for Lions to be able to move into that tagline and really start embracing that. But part of my observation was that our current Kindness Matters campaign can be more epic if we decide to do something a little bit different about it. We can attract Lions and non-Lions to do more and raise money, raise awareness, and maybe even interject some creativity and emphasis on new levels of positive energy through service around the world for the long term, not just today, but something as a long-term marketing campaign, kind of something like we did with We Serve, but just at a different level. The plan would be to leverage social media and share acts of kindness, random acts of kindness around the world, and challenge your friends and relatives to be involved and participate. We can gamify and incentivize some of this to make a difference in all areas of culture. We could create an epic adventure. We can make it all about simple, everyday, dynamic volunteering, which we do every day. Kindness matters. And we can make it the event to be part of. We can make it fashionable to each age, gender, and culture. We can show how we're making a gigantic difference in the world today, and it can be sexy and in the spotlight right now for one moment at a time. I won't really get into the nuts and bolts of how this worked, but basically it would be creating a posting space on Facebook or other social media and asking for small contributions. And the main thing is it would be challenging people to post a random act of kindness. And we could also market our diversity and inclusion. But kind of the key to it would be where we would invest as Lions in incentivizing a random daily pick, where we would pick, let's say, $5,000 grant to be issued to somebody random, Lion or non-Lion, in any city around the world, and that they could donate that money to a charity in their name, in their town. Not some major charity that gets lots of funding, but something that would make a difference to that person, something that makes them have that Lions moment that we all have. And at the same time, invite those folks to become a Lions member or join Lions in some fashion or another. And we'd leverage mainstream media to get involved, challenging our local TVs and our local radios to get involved and maybe compete for their time and service announcement on there, similar to what the Red Nose funding campaign did. The media got involved in that, and for one day, people around the country were involved in this Red Nose fundraiser, and people didn't even know where the money was going. It went to youth, that's it, and hunger, that was it. They didn't say where it went. With Lions, you would know where that went. And the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge was such a huge success. So I'm thinking about introducing the Kindness Matters Challenge that would benefit the Lions Foundation. Some things we might give out for major donors would be something that they could wear around and challenge people in their towns or their communities or their families to get involved. And it's Lions Club, making a difference and changing the energy in our planet, one person, one moment at a time. You know, that one moment at a time is something that a lot of cultures embrace. There's a gentleman from Taiwan that's on the board, Dr. Chang, and he embraces that. His whole culture embraces that one moment at a time. It's your time right now to make a difference around the planet. And we can make this a kinder world. We could also make it an annual event, kind of like Lions Day, where we do this every single year and let the world know who we are. Something simple, letting people know that lions are dynamic volunteers and just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And we're impacting people's lives, one person and one moment at a time. Is this something that you think our Lions organization should pursue? I'd like you to answer this question if you have the opportunity by getting on the Lions virtual site and add your comments and let us know if it's something that we think we ought to pursue. With that, I'll take questions, and I really appreciate the time that you have all invested in coming together on this Saturday and learning more about lions and what can happen in this great world. You know, we have the ability to do incredible things right here and right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Past International Director Lewis. We do have questions that have come in, and we'll take care of the screen sharing there. One came in from YouTube, so I do want to remind you that we are monitoring those questions, and we'll be forwarding any for our presenters from our YouTube as well as Zoom accounts here. The question, it starts with a comment in the question, and this is from Nila and Nikhil. We can also think about digitalizing Lion's Quest. This goes to some of the opportunities that you had shared. They would like to know if all the global causes can be included in the Lion's Quest, and Lion's Quest can be digitized in the future. I'm sorry, that when global causes and Lion's Quest could be digitized in the future.
So I'd love to answer that. The answer to that question is absolutely. And the advisory panel is considering that right now and how we can put those into the program. This year, hopefully, if all goes right, we will have an electronic version of Lion's Quest that'll be in the form of a thumb drive. And hopefully within 18 months to 2 years, we'll have it fully digitized for integration into the schools. That's a great question. Thank you.
Cool. Very great news. Thank you. We also have a comment or question from Peter. Is the traditional Lions road sign the best or only way to generate visibility these days? Or is a passionate cause-focused member with a mouse just as visible?
That's a great question too. It's funny because my wife and I drive a lot lately as we're exploring different states, and we see a lot of lion signs when you come into town, and a lot of them are really, really old. So yes, I think we could do a heck of a lot with that, and even more with one passionate Lions member clicking to make a difference. That's kind of what the Kindness Matters Challenge would allow us to do too, is get that message out in a different format than the signage. You know, one thing I think to remember is that each culture is different. And when you go to some countries, that sign is the only way they have to get that message out. So I think if we embrace a bunch of different ways to get that message out, we're going to be more successful in making lions not the best kept secret in the world.
Great. Thank you. I think Michaela's observation about kindness being contagious is spot on. And I really do hope that the Kindness Matters Challenge is something that all of our Lions can get behind. And I can't wait to watch that explode on social media. So thank you again for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Speaking of social media, I want to take a moment and offer a special thanks to one of our behind the scenes team members. Past Council Chair Winster Ceballos is a core team member of Lions Smile, which is social media including Lions everywhere. Past Council Chair Winster is a member of the Passaic Clifton Lions Club in Clifton, New Jersey, United States. And he also asked, I'm going to put a little plug in for an event they are supporting, and that is a virtual Leo leadership conference, excuse me, that is coming up on May 30th and May 31st. Please